No way, no how. Rob Parker has been in the sports media game for 35 years. It's just incredible when you think about how many cats come and go in this unstable and subjective field. But Parker's versatility is the key to his survival. When the landscape changed, he did too. The only thing more impressive than being in this business full-time since 1986 is that Rob has had at least 35 jobs in 35 years, starting in newspapers, then radio, and then TV, and eventually teaching. To celebrate Rob's adventurous 35-year career, let's take a look at all the jobs he's held in the biz. Number 1, his first ever media job was at the New Haven Register in New Haven, Connecticut, taking high school scores over the phone. From there, he became a high school sports writer at Greenwich Time in Greenwich, Connecticut. His first full-time job straight out of Southern Connecticut State University was at the Wilkes-Barre Times Leader. He started there January 6, 1986, covering high schools, but Rob's time in Wilkes-Barre would be brief. 5 months later, Rob landed a staff sports writer position at the Daily News in New York. Growing up in NYC, it was his favorite paper and dream job, and he was a staff sports writer at the tender age of 22. He covered St. John's basketball, the New Jersey Nets, and the New York Knicks. Parker also did sports on the Daily News radio show on WOR 710 in New York. Then, it was off to Cincinnati in 1991. For 2 seasons, Rob covered the Reds for the Cincinnati Enquirer, making him the first African American to cover the team full-time. He also worked for sports stations WSAI and Channel 5 WLWT in Cincy as an analyst on their Sunday night sports show. Job number 9 were both important and historic. In 1993, Rob was hired at the Detroit Free Press, becoming the first black sports columnist in the paper's 161-year history. From there, Rob would end up working for 9 other media outlets in the city. He was the first person hired at WDFN AM 1130, Detroit's first all-sports radio station. Rob was an analyst and fill-in anchor at WDIV Local 4 News to go along with his duties as a featured columnist for ClickOnDetroit.com.
Rob, why should we read your new sports column on Click on Detroit?
Hey, if I have to tell you, maybe you shouldn't read
Rob
it.
also was a fill-in sports anchor for all of the CBS stations in Detroit, Big 62 and Channel 50. Rob had a sports talk radio show on 97.1 Detroit's FM Talk. Sports Night with Parker and the Man was also on WCHB in addition to working at Detroit Sports 105. He would go on to have 2 other stints at DFN. In job number 20, Rob was an award-winning columnist for the Detroit News for 9 years. Parker was also the 10 p.m. sports anchor for WXYZ TV.
7 Action News at 10 on TV 20 Detroit.
Back in New York, Rob wrote a column for Newsday in New York, worked at Sports Channel. He did sports at the Fox News Channel, reported for Sports Extra on Channel 5, and was an analyst on News Sport. Rob's versatility would serve him well as the juggling act continued with 4 jobs at ESPN. Job number 26, Rob became a debater on First Take. He also was an analyst on Numbers Never Lie.
Daily does the numbers. I'm Carissa Thompson. That's Michael Smith. He's having a hard time looking at Rob Parker because of his suit.
What's up, man?
What's up, buddy?
How you
Carissa, before we get started, let me plug my suit in so we can get there.
Parker was part of a number of shows on ESPN TV.
We're here with Carlos Pena from the Tampa Bay Rays. Carlos, what are you doing back in Tampa Bay? I thought they ran you out of town.
Wrote a column for ESPNNewYork.com, as well as had a radio show on ESPN 1050 AM in New York. Job number 31, Rob was a columnist for the ShadowLeague.com in New York City. Then, for the first time in his career, Rob would take his talents to the left coast to work for Fox Sports 1. He's an analyst for Undisputed, Skip and Shannon.
We go back a long time.
We do. We started doing this in 2006, a show called Cold Pizza. How are you?
I'm doing just great. In New York City, that's right.
And The Herd with Colin Cowherd. He has a national radio show with Chris Broussard called The Odd Couple on Fox Sports Radio. He has 2 popular podcasts, Inside the Parker, and the Lemon Pepper Parlay podcast. Rob is a columnist for Deadspin.com. Locally in Los Angeles, Rob works for AM 570 LA Sports and is an analyst on KNBC's Going Rogan. Job number 35. Rob is an adjunct professor at USC teaching sports journalism. It's amazing. 35 jobs in 35 years. Either Rob can't keep a job or is just plain talented. It can't be the latter, can it?